Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy, invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy, building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 24.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Mighty Married Moms. We are here because we are talking about the fantastic conversation that we just had with Alfred Poor, who shared with us all kinds of great information about how to help high school students and college students really be ready for their next transition, whatever it may be, whether it's high school kids getting ready for college or college students who are getting ready to enter the workforce. We just learned a lot from Alfred. It was great.
Yeah. Is it Alfred Poor, P-O-O-R,
correct.
Speaker?
Yes, alfredpoorspeaker.com.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, he was really so insightful and so helpful. He had all the data points at his disposal, plus some years of experience to bring to bear on the conversation about how young people can transition from high school to college. It was really helpful.
Oh yeah. Well, he comes from an educational background. He's raised kids, gotten them through college, and they've got wonderful jobs that they love. And it's certainly a hot topic for me. I have teenagers, so I'm feeling very stressed out about the whole process. Anybody else feel stressed out about that process?
So we'll talk about Alfred in a second. As a parent coach, I'm going to offer a tip for how not to be quite so stressed. And Alfred did talk about that. He said, don't stress less, he said, and do less. So my tip for parents is this, and that is it needs to come from your kid. And he did talk about this, I think actually after we turned off the recording. We talked for another 20 or 25 minutes after we stopped recording.
Sorry.
But do less and stress less. And the best way to do that is for you to instigate interest in your child by taking them to look at some local colleges and universities, or maybe not local. It can be a really fun field trip to take them to go look somewhere else, someplace within 3 or 4 hours of driving maybe, and look at a large university, look at a small school, look at someplace in the city, look at someplace that's more out in the sticks, and just give them a sense of a whole bunch of different options and let them begin to see themselves there and think about it. Could I see myself on this campus? Could I see myself with these kids? But then once you've instigated the interest, then you bring them home, and the rest is really kind of up to them. You can help them, you can offer suggestions, you can guide them, but the real key is that the rest is up to them. However, what I recommend, and we did this with our kids, is you pick 2 times a week when you and your child agree that you're going to speak about college. So maybe it's Thursdays at 6:30 right after supper, and Sundays at 5 o'clock right before supper. You pick 2 times a week when you're going to agree to sit down and talk about college. And the rest of the week, moms and dads, you don't say anything because it's up to them if they really want to go. And Alfred did talk about this, the natural consequences. And so I recommend that, you take your son to go look at some schools, get him to look at a bunch of different options and begin to think about what do the different campuses feel like. And then when you come home, give him go talk about what are some next steps that he could take. Help him out if he asks you for help, but don't check up on him except those 2 times a week when you agree that you're going to talk about college. Because what that does is it relieves the stress off of you. Oh my gosh, he's not doing it, he's not looking it up, or he's not doing his application, or he's not whatever it is. And it takes the stress off the kid thinking every conversation with mom or with dad is going to be about college. There's more to me, mom or dad, than college. And so, and then the other thing is it gives them a deadline. And, you can talk about, okay, so by the next time we talk, you're going to look up 2 more colleges and let me know what you think about them, right? And he'll say yes. And so you get together, and let's say that he doesn't look them up. You'll say, what stopped you from looking it up? Was it something that you decided you weren't interested in those schools after all? Is there some other school that you might be interested in? Can I help you look through the Barron's Guide or the whatever guide you're using? Can we pick another couple of schools that you're going to look up before we meet next time? And make an appointment. And it's a very business-like situation, and they've got homework for you to do. And if they don't do it, you don't yell at them. You just say, "Why didn't you do this? What was the resistance? What were you thinking? Or not thinking?
Or not.
Is there something else I can do to help you?" So that's my advice for parents and sophomores, juniors, and seniors dealing with the whole college process.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Good, very good advice. Yes,
All right, let's get back to Alfred.
Yes.
One of the things that I love that he talked about, I really, really loved it. Maybe because I'm an entrepreneur myself, and so that whole notion of networking and how to really facilitate conversations with people, because everything in life is based on relationships and who you know.
Absolutely.
You know, it really isn't about, well, look at my resume, how perfect I am. Of course you want me. Well, you know, do I know you? Do I know your family? Do I, do we go to the same school together? And you don't know that unless you do some networking kind of things. So I really, really like the way he posed those 3 questions.
Yes.
To help young people, old people, whoever, learn about how to have a good conversation with somebody in a room, a stranger. What do you do for a living, and what was your first job, and how did you get from that job to where you are today? Great questions.
Great questions.
And I can't think of a lot of teenagers who ask those questions.
No,
they don't. They don't think about it. So those are really excellent ways to teach them to start learning how to network and how to show interest in other people and get information that's very valuable for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love what he said too about when you these questions, they go, really? Your first job out of college, you lived on a mattress on the floor because you couldn't afford the rent or whatever? Like, people do think, kids, what do you call it, Disney?
The Disney complex,
right? Yeah, that you think, well, I'm going to pop out of college and I'm going to have a new Mercedes in the driveway and or whatever it is, in a 3-bedroom house. Like, not really, no. It takes a while to get there. And so I found that really interesting, and that when a kid or somebody's asking those questions, you're going to hear some really interesting stories about the beginning days.
It's pretty funny too, because I look back at my when I was first looking for a job right out of college, and at the time, I had gone to this college where they taught us, you can do whatever you want to do. You can excel. You are great women, and everything's going to, you can do whatever you want to do. So one of the first people I talked to about a potential job afterward wanted to know if I wanted to work in customer service. And my only experience with customer service was I would call when I had a complaint. And so I thought,
makes sense.
I don't want to talk to people all day long who are just complaining.
Yeah.
I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So I didn't follow up on that. And who knows where it could have led. I mean, it could have been a great job down the road. But those entry-level jobs, no one explained to me that you have to take an entry-level job to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Not really explained it in a way that I took it in and understood it.
Yeah, right. I think that, it's
sorry.
No, I was going to say, go first. Go ahead.
Or that those jobs can be great learning platforms to know what you want to do. Or if you think, I want to own a restaurant someday, go work at a restaurant so that you know what it's like to run it, learn all the operations, or any kind of a business. Take those entry-level jobs because it can give you great information on, is this really the environment that I want to be in?
Right.
I think there's something in the ether that just says to a young person today, entry-level jobs for people who didn't go to college. I went to college, so I can skip over an entry-level job because I'm so skilled and so valuable.
I don't know if I would agree with that.
No? Well, why the hesitancy about entry-level jobs?
I think that, why did I have a hesitancy? I did because I thought I was better than that. I don't know. But I don't think that's, there's been so much talk about how difficult it is to find a job today that I think young people are willing to take almost anything.
Yeah, today. I think you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. They recognize the fact that a lot of people graduate and they don't have jobs lined up.
Yeah.
And, I have a daughter who's a senior as we're recording this, a senior at college. And, she's applying to grad schools, and a lot of her friends are applying to various grad schools. But the ones who aren't are trying to figure out, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And when my older son graduated a few years ago, he went to an engineering school, and you would think that the people would snatch up engineers, right?
Yeah.
He actually had a lot of classmates initially who did not have a job.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it is still a difficult job market. Right. As we're recording this, it is still a difficult job market to break into.
Right.
So, and we didn't get a chance to get into it as much as I wanted to, and that was to talk more about internships too, and how important those are.
Yes, yeah,
because you can try out what it's like to be in a particular industry, even if it's not a career, but at least to be in an industry and say, "Wow, do I like this or not?"
Right.
Do I like working in a hospital? You know,
Yeah,
do some
exactly.
or do I not like working in a hospital?
Really, yeah.
Or whatever.
That environment.
And there's certainly internships are great opportunities to network, and get to know people in the field that you might be interested in, who might recommend you, or walk your resume in, or do whatever it is that because we all know it's a lot of times who you know that gets you the job. And he said that too, and that's why you need to teach kids how to network, and those 3 questions being a great point of departure, a way for them to learn how to start. That the resume is less important. The school that you went to is way less important. Your grade point average is not so important on the bottom of the list of what they consider.
That was very, very interesting. What do you say? The Chronicle ranked the factors that human resources people actually said were important when they were evaluating new candidates.
Yeah.
And the things that keep parents and kids up at night, which is their GPA or how prestigious their school is, were the final 2 factors of the 8. The other things preceded it. Do you remember what number 1 was?
I don't think he said.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
We just talked about that they were
and those
prestige of the school was last,
Yeah.
and grade point average was next to last,
which is
that was really interesting.
Yeah.
But I want to get into that a little bit, because one of the things that happens is if you're applying to let's call it a named school, all right, versus kind of a less expensive, less named state school or something like that. Honestly, one of the things you are paying for is the student body.
True.
You are paying for
those future networking events.
Networking events. You're paying for other students in your class who are going to push you and challenge you and ask questions that you didn't think of. And you are paying for the people that are going to be living in your dorm and with whom you're going to have late night conversations about current events and what happened in class today. And those are the people that are passionate. And if you are going, you are paying for the student body.
Yeah.
As much as for the professor, as much as for the content. And we talked with Alfred about content and how they're just kind of pouring content. You are paying for the student body. And I think that's valuable.
Right.
Honestly, I hate to say it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It just calls into question, is there only that sort of in-depth value add conversation to be had at a prestigious school?
No, it's just easier to find.
It's easier to find, yeah. No, I guess
but that being said, I will also say, look, going to a named school is not for everybody. It is not. Not everybody needs to. Not everybody wants to. Not everybody is ready to. A lot more and more students are taking gap years, and that's actually, perhaps we can find a guest at some point to talk to us about what it means to take a gap year.
Yeah, right.
A couple of kids who are doing that right now, actually. Smart kids. They got into a school that they liked, and they're deferring. They're just taking a gap year. For a lot of reasons. Or, in some cases, it's a kid who really just was not ready to go to college yet, academically or socially or emotionally, and then they're taking a gap year.
Right. Or they just want to work for a year and get
some money.
Bottom line money.
Yep. So there are a lot of reasons. Yeah, so we should actually have a conversation about gap years at some point. We'll do that.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's a good idea. I think it's a really good idea. And my experience being a stepmom of 2 young men is that I think they both would have benefited from a gap year. And it just kind of, I wish I'd spoken with Arthur about that. Alfred, excuse me. I wish I'd spoken with him about that, because he mentioned the fact that there's some studies that are indicating that people's emotional maturity is actually later. It's after college, 25, 26. There's some studies to indicate that. And he said that one of the contributing factors, I think after we turned off the camera, was that digital communications, because they remained tethered to their high school group, as opposed to just going, when you weren't connected, you're starting over, and you kind of grow up, and you adopt a persona that you're excited about or happy about. So that, coupled with, like I said, with my stepsons, I just think that the delay in maturity mixed with being a boy, I think that there is some value to having a gap year. I would have. If I could have designed their lives, I would have suggested, go to Alaska and become a tuna fisherman or something.
And it's interesting. We have family friends in Europe, and I think it's, for instance, I'm thinking in Austria. I might get this wrong, but I believe that what they do is they spend 1 year after high school doing service to their country, and they can choose the military, or they can choose the medical service.
And this is guys or both?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
Both. I think it's 1 year, and I think it's required.
Wow.
And then they can apply to colleges.
Yeah.
And boy, can you imagine if if every 18 or 19-year-old in our country had to do a year of service before they went to college?
Not to mention the fact that you've been studying and writing papers and doing all these things all these 12 years or however many years you've been in the system before you graduate from high school. Wouldn't it be nice to take a year off of that mode, and then once you've had that gap year and then go back to a class and go, feels good to hold a pen, or feels good to take some notes, or it feels good to learn. There might be some sort of appreciation that you might not have gotten had you not taken the
My mother, many years ago, when she graduated from high school, went to a 3-year nursing school as opposed to a 5-year nursing school. At that time, 3 years got her RN, at 5 years would have gotten her BSN.
Yep, that's right.
But she was pretty sure she was going to marry my father, and she didn't want to wait for 5 years.
Yeah.
So she got her degree, her RN in 3 years. Years later, when I was in high school, she started going back to college part-time. And it took her 8 years to get her BSN.
Wow.
8 years and going to school half-time.
Wow.
And there were many times she said to me, college is wasted on the young because they just don't care. They don't appreciate it.
Yeah, and so she was sitting in classrooms and loving everything she was hearing and enjoying
not
it.
Always, but there were a few professors she could have done without.
Probably. Yeah.
But for the most part, she was taking it in and really absorbing it, and was really excited finally to be able to have her that degree that said bachelor's on it.
Right. Yeah.
She had that for years hanging over her. She wanted that piece of paper, and it meant so much to her at that point in her life.
Oh, I get that totally. And again, I think the camera was off when he talked about that. He said, but the number one complaint of employers for first-time job folks, the number one complaint they have is their attendance.
Yes.
It's abysmal.
Oh, yes, talk about that.
And he said, we teach students how the college experience is that you don't want to go to your 8 o'clock class, you don't want to go to your 2 o'clock class, don't go. No skin off our nose. There's no backwash or backblow to not showing up for class. And so then they roll into their first job and they go, I want to sleep in today, or whatever it may be. I don't know.
Sick,
or calling sick. I'm going skiing for the week, or whatever it is. And that's a big problem for employers. We need you here. We need you to help us out. We're paying you, but we, in essence, taught them
they didn't have to show up.
They don't have to show up.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting piece of data.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially because so many times now you can get the college notes online.
Right.
And you can still get the grade.
Right.
Yeah.
The focus is the grade, not so much your experience or what.
Or could you do the class?
Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Right. Yeah. So don't just think I'm going to have this information dumped into my head, but how can I make the best of my experience?
Right.
And it's really not. We're not teaching that the way that we could be.
We haven't taught the love of learning.
Yeah.
We've taught kids how to work for a grade.
Yeah.
We really have. What's happened to the love of learning? And I saw that in my own kids.
Right.
They couldn't wait to just get the grade so that they could move on to college. And fortunately, in all of their cases, they ended up studying what they are passionate about in college. But you still have to get through a lot of the gen ed courses before you can get to your major. So our oldest did engineering. He graduated with an engineering degree, and he was really, really fascinated with engineering. He's the one who's in the Navy right now. And then our daughter started out in a nursing program at a prestigious university. Wasn't a good social fit for her. She just never found her niche socially, and so she transferred to a less prestigious college nearby, much smaller, and that fits her personality much better. She switched to psychology and is still planning to go getting a nursing degree and when she graduates, but she went into psychology, and she was telling me the other day, Mom, I just love psychology. It's so easy for me. I don't have to work at it,
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Sure.
She gets straight A's in psychology. She doesn't have to work at it because she just loves it so much.
Right.
And then our youngest son taught himself, as you were talking at one point about YouTubing, I guess this was off when the camera was off too, learning to do something that you love through YouTube. My youngest son taught himself that. He taught himself photography, he taught himself videography, he taught himself how to write music, and he got into a big prestigious university in New York on composition because he taught himself how to write music on his computer. No one else taught him that.
It's amazing what it, that could be a great philosophical discussion. What is education?
Yeah.
What is education? Is education a document from a university, prestigious or not, that says yes, this person has a bachelor's of science, they put in enough seat hours, and they got enough good grades so that they actually deserve this diploma based on our criteria? Or is somebody who, says, I'm not going to that kind of a school, I'm rolling up my sleeves, I'm going to hang out with my uncle the contractor, and I'm going to figure out how to go up on the roofs safely, I'm going to figure out how to talk to the other guys so they show up at work and they're not drunk. Whatever it is that you're learning, and you're becoming an upstanding member of society. Yeah. So I just find the whole thing kind of an interesting thing. Like you said, the love of learning. Mm-hmm. That's what people used to do. Whoever, Cicero or whatever, back in the day, it was it was about the academy.
Yeah.
It was about learning for the sake of learning and being able to dialogue with great minds and chew things over. And somebody came along and fed them. These people weren't going to the mines every day and digging trenches or crunching numbers for their supper. Somebody was bringing them supper because they were able to just sit and think and cogitate, right? And so that's the love of learning, but we have really turned education into a transaction, like what kind of a job can I get? Mm-hmm. And my boys weren't very... They didn't glom onto that idea. They were like, well, I don't understand why I have to go to college in order to make a living. Well, that's the way we've set the world up.
It is.
Yep.
And I think it's valuable, and I talked about that. So
I think it's valuable too. I absolutely do. Yeah. There's so many other benefits that we were talking about with college as well. A time to grow up, a time to sort of a little transition point from being at home to being kind of on your own, and then to be on your own.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great transition.
It's a great transition.
And also just how to get along with people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is key.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's huge because you're living with other people.
Right. Yep.
And the students who are not able to afford to live on campus for whatever reason, and they still have to live at home, that transition just never really... It's a lot more difficult to make that transition from being dependent on your parents and knowing that whatever you need is going to be taken care of, and then all of a sudden to being on your own. I mean, that transition is just much more difficult if you have to live at home while you're going to college, and you don't learn to live with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what he said too about his book. Can you remind me of the title of his book?
7 Things Every College Student Needs to Know. Something like that. I don't have it written down in front of me. But
he said it was a short book that could be read in an afternoon, and they were good conversation starters to have with your college age or your high school age student. So I thought that was a really helpful thing is to build those in. So over the next 7 weeks, when we have our 2 dates on Thursdays at 6:30 and Sundays at 5, let's you and I both read this book, and we'll talk about
that's something you could do too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. Some maybe that could be in the sophomore year or the junior year or something like that.
Yep.
To kind of use his book as a conversation starter. I really like it.
And that will also... I haven't actually had a chance to read the book yet because Alfred was great, and he did this interview on about 48 hours notice, but he's sending us the book, and I will be reading it for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All my kids.
So I'm speaking a little bit without having read it yet, but I'm sure that that's actually a really good idea, Wendy, and something that we can do, Shouldn't we be teaching our kids the love of learning? And what better way to do it than to pick up a book that's about preparing for the next stage of learning in life, right?
Absolutely.
And do it together.
Formal learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the informal learning is happening 24/7.
Right.
But formal learning, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And it sets the expectation also of what are you going to get out of this tremendous investment in your future. Whether the parents are helping the kids or the kids are responsible for it themselves, what are you going to get out of this investment? You need to go into it with an intention of, this is what I want to get out of it.
Yep.
And, maybe that's asking a lot of an 18-year-old, but they need to at least be aware of the fact that it is an investment and they should plan to have some sort of an outcome from it.
Well, like I said, I've done the math. I said, all right, it's $10,000 a semester. That's, you're taking 5 classes, that's $2,000 per class, and each class is worth $412.72. If you sleep through 1 or 2 of those classes and you throw $824 of my money down the toilet, I won't be happy.
Exactly.
I won't be happy, or your money. throwing down the toilet.
Right.
You know, to really, and that might help build into that thing of the first job, them showing up.
Yeah.
First job, too. It's a nice tie-in.
Yes.
It's a nice tie-in.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more that we could say about getting ready for college, for sure. Yeah. And we will come back to this topic again in the future.
He's going to come back.
Yeah, we'll have him back, definitely, because he had a lot to offer. So thanks to Alfred Poor for being with us, and thank you for being with us today, too, at mightymarriedmoms.com. And we will look forward to seeing you in our next show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.